On the hub, it had the Corona logo, and then it had 6 weights that you could unscrew, all of which was shaped like a Corona bottle.
That's
It
adorable.
was the coolest fidget spinner I'd ever seen.
Oh, I want that one.
In this
I
moment,
got one where they're all
buying.
bullets and you can take them off.
Wow, that's really
Yeah.
cool.
Talking about fidget spinners.
Yeah, fidget spinners.
Fidget Spinner Podcast, episode 28.
I think I have like mid 30s.
Has anyone made a fidget spinner that has a ring of LEDs, and then when you spin it, it makes a programmable message?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Have they made that?
That was a while ago.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
That was
it's
like one of the
awesome.
first things they did.
I'm glad, because that's what I want now.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, they've definitely made LED ones. I don't fucking know.
I thought you were
I
the
feel like
expert.
those are those
are the gimmicks?
I have a huge spinner collection. Those are the ones that are the gimmick ones.
I kind of love like that gimmick. Like gimmick spinners were part of the process, and especially
Yeah.
now that we're at the burnout, like I see their role in the arc of fidget spinners.
Well, the thing, it's because it's so important that they're all evenly weighted, and it's so rarely do I find a fidget spinner that's like perfectly evenly weighted. And the LED ones have like USB ports and shit, and it's just like
Oh.
so clearly not
So they don't
evenly
spin
weighted.
well. That's the problem.
Yeah.
If they spun well, would they be less of a gimmick to you?
I don't know. Oh, I haven't tried one. Maybe they do weight them really well, but
Because if they have the exact same like 3 things in an arrangement, and every thing has a
Yeah.
row of LEDs, then
or you could just weigh each end. I don't know.
yeah, just put some loose plastic in there.
But even ones that like $20 spinners that are like this is a high end spinner. It comes with a case and everything.
Yeah.
Even those are like still a little wobbly.
Get your fidget spinner polishing cream.
I only have a couple that are like really really good and even.
Where do you see the fidget spinner industry moving from here?
It's already going away.
Yeah.
You don't think there's a second boom on the horizon?
No,
What could they do?
I don't know, man.
fuck,
what could they
God.
do?
I saw someone who had made like a straight up like it's kind of the same concept as the one where it's like persistence of vision text on the outside ring, but I saw someone who had done like a full on animation. Like I think somebody did like you might have seen it. They did like Mario's like run cycle. from
Oh,
Mario
that's
1,
cool.
Where like it was like a zoetrope when you got it spinning like in Mario. would run.
Oh, that's really nice.
That's
Really
a good
cool.
idea.
Yeah.
Besides fidget spinners, we're also talking about hero shooters,
What?
which is the other side of the fidget
I
spinner
don't want to
coin.
be on this podcast then. I thought we were talking about fucking fidget spinners.
I lured you in with a lie, Aaron. I
Damn
apologize.
it. God damn it. You know I'm crazy about those spinners.
It's just another fad.
Hero shooters, also another fad? Question mark, question mark, question mark.
That's what I was referring to, not
yeah,
spinners.
because I mean, as far as I can tell, they kind of, it's like that overnight success that takes 15 years. That's sort of how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Because, like, what would you say the oldest hero shooter is? Like, I mean, I think TF2 is kind of an obvious choice, but then TF1.
I guess
before that.
TFC is
But then those were considered class shooters, and I don't know if there's a real difference between class
Is
shooters.
there a difference? Yeah. I don't think so.
I don't really think there is. Just we changed the name of them at some point.
yeah,
Maybe GoldenEye, because Odd Job was shorter.
Well,
That's true.
what game invented hero shooters? Because I'd never heard that term until Overwatch.
I think it was like Overwatch and Battleborn were coming out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lawbreakers was
Because
in
they were very
development.
clearly like comic booky kind of characters.
Right. And everyone called them champions because of League of Legends. Because that's the thing is like the idea of Team Fortress has been around for a while. You have different classes with different abilities. You can have like a heavy tank dude and a light rogue type character. But it seems like only recently, maybe because of the explosion of MOBAs, that then popularized this idea of you have a bunch of different characters that all have different abilities that complement and contradict one another. And that sort of bled into the shooter space and then became this little offshoot.
And is kind of becoming the norm as far as I can tell.
Well, I don't see the traditional shooter going anywhere. You still have Call of Duty and Battlefield, games like that, which are, you can be at least in COD, you can be a one-man army.
Yeah, that's
in
true.
Battlefield, I don't think that is as much a thing. But still, just like you pick your loadout, there's XP progressions as have become the norm for the last 10 years or so. And you can sort of shape your character the way you see fit depending on your playstyle, rather than I pick this hero because that's the playstyle I want to play,
Yeah.
which is kind of a different spin on that.
And I guess to an extent, I mean, like what TF2 had like the Uber charge, like which almost feels like an ultimate.
Like a proto ultimate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, so
There might have been other ones in the crazy hat explosions, but I didn't play a whole lot of TF2 after everything went to.
I didn't either. Yeah.
Yeah.
I am curious to see if some of that stuff becomes like normative in the next couple of years. Like if the traditional shooter, which is kind of what I feel like with,
if COD starts introducing classes and
yeah,
maybe they already do. I haven't played a COD in a while.
I think that'll probably happen.
yeah.
I think that's sort of the natural progression, because I think the idea of like running around, and I feel like it goes in waves, like with everything, right? Like now hero shooters are hot and everybody's familiar with that and everybody's played Overwatch. So for a lot of people, Overwatch is sort of the bar now, or the norm. And so when other shooter games do shooting games, it's like fucking, of course I'm going to add in, this is the character that has the sniper rifle and this is the character that has the whatever. And I feel like it's going to be 15 or 20 years from now where we're going to see like a resurgence in like the classic Unreal Tournament style of game, because then it's like nostalgic and people are like pining for those days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whereas at this point it's a little played out and sort of rote.
How does Overwatch compare to the big shooters of the day, like the CODs and Battlefields and whatnots? Because I can only assume that COD is still bigger.
Oh, yeah, it is. I mean, I guess COD is.
I think Overwatch is like the biggest shooter.
I have
right
no
now.
idea, but I know COD is still top dollar. Just headlining item.
You know what? I think maybe, was there a wrench thrown in the works a little bit by, what was the last COD? Infinite Warfare?
Infinite, I think.
Yeah,
Which, like,
the
let me
last one
give it a Google.
bombed,
People,
didn't it?
people really hated it. So maybe
Yeah.
Did
Overwatch
they?
has
I thought that
overtaken
one was
it.
better.
Well-
No, they got World War II happening now.
I think
Which that's like, hey, remember that when we used to be sick of?
If I may correct myself, critically it was actually pretty well received for a COD, but it sold really badly because gamers hated the idea of it.
I think COD, because it's like a yearly shooter, right? Like they release.
Yeah.
So I think like the servers are open for like the last 6 of them, and people are still playing each one, however much they like to play it.
That's the thing, is if you make a really good one, then you're just fragmenting your own market share.
Yeah.
So you're putting one out every single year.
That is interesting.
And
And then they
trying
did
to
like
see.
they did that remaster of Modern Warfare at the same time that no doubt was dividing their audience even further, right?
Oof, what a shame.
Well, I'm looking at a list from Statista.com, which is all-time unit sales of selected games in Call of Duty franchise worldwide as of June 2017. And top one is Modern Warfare 3, then Black Ops, Black Ops 2, Ghosts, Black Ops 3, Modern Warfare 2, Advanced Warfare, Modern Warfare, World at War, Infinite Warfare, Call of Duty 3, Call of Duty 2. So if I'm reading this correctly, then the last 2 years of Call of Duty aren't, or at least the last year isn't on here. Because the top one is 2011 is the most sold at 30.67 million.
Okay.
And then it just sort of goes 2011, 2010, 2012, 2013, 2015 is the most recent year, which is Black Ops 3. But I don't know if I can find how Infinite Warfare sold. I'm just trying to figure out if it actually is like a market shift towards hero shooters, or if Overwatch is just its own island of success.
That's really interesting. As a totally hardcore gamer, I don't know how I feel about the answer.
I'm pretty sure, because when Dream Daddy came out, I was pretty like up on the sales charts just to like monitor. And Overwatch was like always number 1 or 2, and then PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds was like fighting with it.
Yeah. I'm curious about concurrent players. Like if you were to divide Overwatch, like I know like PUBG is fucking up there, but since they're not both on Steam, you can't just like put them 1-to-1 next to each other and
right.
find out. Especially since Overwatch is on consoles.
Yeah, that's true too, because that's its own player base.
Yeah.
There's no cross-platform. Which, by the way, have you ever tried to use a controller on the PC version and fight other PC players?
Oh yeah,
I'm super
Overwatch?
Curious how that would go.
I did.
Because you can do that.
I was on Steam controller once, basically just for laughs, which is a pain in the ass because you have to like do like a weird runaround to get Battle.net going through the Steam overlay, and then like launch so that the Steam overlay aligns with Overwatch and not with like the Battle.net launcher still open in the background. It's like a pain in the ass, but
Whoa.
I was semi-competitive, I would say. I was mostly sticking to characters where you don't have to aim very precisely.
A lot of Winston, a lot of Symmetra.
Yeah, I was Diva a bunch.
Oh,
'cause
okay,
I
yeah.
would just like scatter and then nuke people and like lay back in my chair like I did it.
I'm having a harder time than I anticipated figuring out how many this damn game sold.
Who, Overwatch?
No,
Call of Duty
Infinite.
Modern Warfare?
5 million?
Who gives a shit?
5.6 million?
Call of fucking
No,
Duty.
12.3 million. So
12.
that's like less than 50% as many as 2015's Call of Duty. So that's a precipitous decline.
I love how that's like,
weird.
oh man, what a failure. And then he thinks like 21 million.
12 million.
And that's each $60. Like,
Right.
Jesus
Plus
Christ.
DLC and who knows what.
Yeah,
what,
they really
what was the
fucked
budget
up
of the
on
game?
this
Like
one.
100 million or something, probably?
Yeah, it's this Activision we're talking about.
Good lord.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Overwatch has sold like 30 million, I think. Something like that. I don't remember exactly.
30 million. Was it 30 or 300? Or is that a horrible?
300 million is a lot of video game.
That is a lot in a video game.
Well, I've certainly spent more than $60 worth on
Well, yeah, I mean,
Overwatch.
we'll probably just talk about our opinions, granted that it's an opinion-based show.
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of curious if we can draw like a bigger words, you know?
All right, I have a question.
Yeah.
Have either of you played Battleborn?
No.
Have either of you
30
played...
million players
Okay,
as of April.
cool. Have either of you played the free one where you like ride on
Paladins?
horses?
Paladins.
No.
Everyone says that's just the free-to-play Overwatch, which I don't know if that's fair or not because I haven't played it. Because I already have Overwatch, so why would I play something that's presumed to be a clone of it?
Yeah. I think that's probably going to happen a lot in the hero
And then
genre.
there's a lot of like Gigantic is one that just came out recently, but also seems like it's a MOBA / hero shooter thing. And I've never been one to get into MOBAs, so whenever they have that aesthetic and they like just rip off the UI of League of Legends, I'm just like, I don't know. I don't think that's for me.
I'm really interested in this actually because MOBAs had that whole thing where, I mean, you had Dota and then League of Legends and then Dota 2. I might have the timeline wrong, but everybody was piling on and making MOBAs. And there was like that like DC Infinite Crisis MOBA, and there's just like
There was like Smite, and there was
and there was like a Star Wars MOBA
Smite's
on
still going.
mobile.
Really? Mm-hmm. Good on them.
I still see banner ads for it that are of the you must
one
be
female
18
character.
or older, yeah, to click on this link.
Nice. There was another one that I played very briefly. I don't remember what it was called. It was a plural. I'll tell you that much. It was some sort of Paladins type situation.
Oh, it was just a one word.
Yeah, just like
plural.
this is what it is.
It wasn't-
and
it
they're
wasn't
not
a
heroes or
blank of blanks.
champions. They're warlords or something. I don't know.
But like MOBAs, there was some turnaround before they hit like the saturation point at which like they kind of seem to have stopped being profitable. So there's not people churning them out as fast.
You're saying for everyone that's not Valve or Riot.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And like I feel like hero shooters, is it like
Just Overwatch?
Overwatch is like the profitable one and the rest kind of fell.
Well, yeah, that's interesting, right? Like when war-based first-person shooters were really popular, there was a bunch of successful franchises. Granted, COD and Battlefield are the only ones that really survived.
Yeah, Medal of Honor tried.
But yeah, but Medal of Honor was a huge success. Like
Back when it was all World War II games, I preferred the Medal of Honor
yeah,
games. to the Call of Duty
SOCOM
games.
was
Yeah,
a
me
big
too.
success.
Yep. And even SOCOM did like more modern-ish stuff. They did like Gulf War stuff, if I remember correctly.
So it's interesting that Overwatch comes out and completely changes how that goes around, and then no competitors really came out and stirred things up.
Especially like Overwatch's crossover appeal is just bonkers. Like I'm sure like everyone in every boardroom is like trying to figure out the formula to making like these lovable cartoon characters that
Yeah.
people get super into.
Well, yeah, and then you have things like Battleborn, which, as far as I can tell, was just a complete fluke mistake to just be like, if Overwatch didn't exist, we might all be playing Battleborn. I don't know.
We'd all be the giant fungus man and like
Yeah, but that was the thing.
weird-
Is like I saw that art at E3. They had a giant statue and just giant burly muscle man with really tiny head. I was just like, I get what they're going for. It just didn't click with me. And then you see Tracer zipping around, speaking with her little Cockney accent, and you're just like, oh, it's just adorable.
Oh, yeah.
It's just nice.
There's something about the aesthetics of Overwatch that really helped because with
for
Battleborn
sure.
I was like I liked 2 characters,
yeah.
and then with Overwatch I liked literally every character, and that was actually I actually used that just personally when all the Sombra shit was going on, because whenever there was like a Sombra leak and they like had a picture of Sombra in game or like a drawing or something, I was like, I don't love it, so it's not real.
It's all edgy, and she's wearing a cloak. And,
Like I just
Yeah.
knew because it wasn't an amazing design that I fell in love with instantly. And then once the real one came out, I was like, oh, that's it.
I never thought about it, but I think I had the same thing.
Yeah.
That like there would be something that looked like it was a background character from the Matrix Reloaded.
Yeah,
and then
exactly.
I think the only
Like, that's
character
not her. It can't be. It's too boring.
I think the only character I really disliked when I first saw Overwatch, and especially in the lead up to it, was Reaper, because he just felt like he didn't really fit in.
Yeah.
And then the
It's
community
the only
made me
character that
love
uses
him.
magic.
Right. That's
Uh,
Nanomachine, son.
There was
He's a Nanomachine cloud.
Speaking of which, Reaper bothered me because he's just like an edgelord type of dude. And when I first saw the Overwatch cast, like Genji really stood out to me, and I know that's going to be a real controversial take, but he's so completely
He's
just
cool.
But he's just Gray Fox. So like the first time I saw him, I was like, wait a minute.
What's the Cyborg Ninja doing in this game?
Oh, you were saying you didn't like Genji.
Yeah, just because he like he
okay.
kind of just like
Just kind of bland.
he's
yeah.
he's a little less.
And then did you
unique
watch
of a
the
take
Dragon
than-
short and you were shedding a tear and you're like, okay, I'm on board.
I haven't spent.
Damn it.
I don't think I ever watched the Dragons one.
Oh, it's
The one that's like really good, and then it's like awkward because they use like the game audio when they're using their attacks, and it feels really like
piss.
pandering and
Well,
strange.
I think it came out before the game came out.
Yeah.
So I didn't know back then. I was naive.
That happened with the Meet the Blank TF2 shorts too, where like it would like the short would be like all like the Pixar quality animation, and then it would like cut to in-game footage of them fighting, and it would look really stilted comparatively. I always love that. And like the weird like Pavlovian response when you hear like a soldier screaming that like he's coming at you, and all of a sudden in this animated short, it's like, oh, this is a video game, right?
But yeah, so I guess as far as I can tell, TF2 is at least or you can say TF Classic, but TF2 is the one that I became familiar with, was like one of the earliest things of what we could consider a hero shooter. And I think it's that idea that you're choosing a character that you play as because they fulfill a certain role. And you can have a role that you just play no matter what. But then I think the significant part about it is that you can change who your class is every time you respawn. And the whole idea of like a hero shooter doesn't really lend itself to a deathmatch situation, even though Overwatch started doing deathmatch, and I think it's actually way better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, it's really fun.
Oh
but-
man, way fun.
I think the idea of having like healers doesn't really make sense in Call of Duty. I know Battlefield has medics, and at least the newest one, where you can revive fallen dudes before they actually die.
Yeah, even like 1942 had one, right?
They might have,
I think it did.
but that's different than like a magical beam that follows people around.
And that's like your
the
sole
medic.
ability. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one. I mean, maybe there were battle medics in TF2, but it seemed like. I mean, also not a lot of people played the medic when I was playing it because he just wasn't as fun.
Yeah.
But,
Dude, I think aesthetic has a lot to do with it, man. Because TF2 is also very like you get attached to the characters.
Oh, yeah.
And people,
a game that looked like that had never existed.
yeah, people play characters just because they like the characters, and even like so many people play Widow and they don't even like snipers. Like they've never played snipers, but they just like Widow because she's cool.
Oh my God. I've known
And everyone plays Genji because they love anime.
Exactly. And when TF2 came out, I remember there was such a huge like what the fuck is this shit? Like what is this kiddie shit? But
Was there?
For real. I remember
Yeah.
I remember like a comment on
it was like
the,
Wind Waker. It was like people were like, "What?"
on like the GameFAQs forum. I remember this comment that really stuck with me where a kid was like, oh, I'd really like the game if only they hadn't had Walt Disney design it. what? You know that dude's dead, right?
I just remember getting the orange box and running through the levels with the developer commentary and hearing them talk about how they very deliberately designed those characters to have those very stark silhouettes.
Oh, yeah.
So even in all the crazy rockets flying, people are blowing up into giblets, you can still instantly be like, okay, that's a heavy, that's a demo, that's an engineer. Compared to something like Quake 3, where you just have these like colored blobs just flying at light speed.
But it doesn't matter in Quake 3
But it doesn't matter
because everyone's the same.
Everyone's the same. You're just picking up shit from the environment, so it doesn't really matter that they all kind of have the same model. You just need to be able to go, that's an enemy. I need to be able to see them against the background. That's what's important. But TF2 made this distinction that no, who the character is, who they're playing, that's what's really important for you right now.
Oh yeah.
And then they ruined it all with hats, but that's besides the point. The classic TF2 is fucking solid. And I think every hero shooter that's been successful, namely Overwatch, embraces that idea that they have these very strong silhouettes. I think Battleborn was going for that as well with crazy muscle man.
Like that was just bad timing, man.
It was bad. I kind of wish I played it just to have that sense of what it was.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean that was
I guess
it. Was
I
it.
could.
Like Overwatch was superior, and they came out around the same time. Like that is the clear cut answer,
Right. And I know a lot of people like I haven't played through a whole lot of the Borderlands games because I don't really enjoy them, but like I know a lot of people have at least clung onto them for kind of the same reasons that they cling on to Overwatch, where like someone's really horned for a handsome Jack or like finds Claptrap really funny.
Yeah.
And then like Battleborn, I never heard word one about who any of the cast was. Like nobody ever gave a shit.
Well, there wasn't enough time.
Yeah.
If Battleborn came out a year before Overwatch, people would have gotten attached to the characters. And then when Overwatch came out, it probably would have taken a majority of the market share, but you at least would have had people like sticklers who are like, no, I came up with this and like I'm good at it. And there would have been support, and there would have been like balance tweaks and new characters and shit. So
That's interesting. Yeah.
and they could have kind of pivoted when Overwatch was coming out to like better explain what makes them different. And people have already had all this time. It would have been an actual like Coke versus Pepsi situation.
Yeah.
Instead of Coke versus sewage water. Like didn't even get a chance. Sewage water's great, guys. You just gotta try it.
Fucking keep knocking tab the way you are.
It's the dream soda.
because it's not bad, and it's like if you're an Overwatch player today and you go back and play like Overwatch beta, it's like really shit. Like everything's unbalanced and it's weird, and there's it just feels weird.
Yeah. I got into the beta a little late, but even when I did, like it was already like much different. And like it was the first time I ever played it, I installed it and just got like real frustrated and didn't play it again for like another month. Because like
Bastion was like unreal.
oh yeah, it was
that when he
ridiculous.
has different ultimate?
That was when he had a shield.
Oh right. Was he ever playable with his old ultimate? He would like send out like a disc that then explode into all these little cluster bombs.
Oh yeah, I saw a video of that.
There was an official Blizzard video when they were like introducing all the characters that had that. I don't know if it was ever actually playable.
I don't think so.
But they've said that they had
I've never heard of that.
they had a hell of a time coming up with Bastion's ultimate. It was like specifically him. They went through all these different ideas,
Wow.
and I guess the tank, they were like, all right, it's good enough.
Yeah, but like Pharah was useless. Like she couldn't jump, and like McCree could kill everybody in like one hit. Like
That was even when the game came out, McCree.
Yeah,
It was right click people to death.
it was just like chaos.
yeah.
So you know, if Battleborn had the time to come out and get balanced and people to get attached to the format and all this stuff, when Overwatch came out, it would have been a fucking nightmare. Like people would have been like, this is so unbalanced and weird, and so
Yeah, that
But
makes sense.
to me, that's one of the things that I like about Overwatch is how it's not really that well balanced, but that kind of, to me, is part of the idea of a hero shooter, that you have these very clear matchups where this player beats this player.
It's something they do really successfully, and I think that's a part of what really makes it stand out from TF2, because like TF2, there's almost nothing like that. Like aside from the fact that like the medic pairs nicely with people,
Right.
Like there's nobody who's just explicitly there to just. I guess the spy destroys the engineer, but otherwise,
Yeah, I mean,
like
they have like soft counters to one another, but
Yeah.
like as a scout, it's not like a demo man is your worst enemy. It's like you could probably take him out.
yeah,
I don't know.
There's not it's not like an enemy that turns so slowly that the scout has the perfect advantage on.
Right,
him
or
something
they
like
only
that.
have a melee ability and
Yeah.
their long distance shit is on crazy cooldowns. Because I don't think that's also something that I think MOBAs took from older RPGs and MMOs and stuff. The whole cooldown system, having multiple abilities on cooldown, and TF2 didn't really do that.
No, not at all.
I think maybe there were some hats that had some sort of activatable abilities, because the demo got that sword, the Headlander, and I think that was like a thing you could activate.
Yeah, you need
don't remember
you need to
very
get
well.
like a certain amount of kills or something
Maybe
like
that's
that,
what
and
it
then
was,
it gets
like
powered
a
up.
mini quest in the middle of the action.
Yeah.
But
I still don't think it's that clean cut in Overwatch. Like if like a Winston counters a Symmetra, but like a good Symmetra knows that, and if they're going up against a Winston and they have a role as Symmetra, then it's like, okay, well, I can come up with something. I can position myself to be in a place where I could even bait the Winston because he knows he can counter me, and then put him in a shitty situation.
or the Symmetra just hangs out with her Reaper, and then
Yeah,
they
exactly.
just fuck him up every time he jumps in.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is it's about kind of realizing what the other team has and counterplaying them and on the meta level, rather than in COD where you're just outplaying the other team, which obviously is very enjoyable for a lot of people. And I spent a fuck ton of time playing Modern Warfare 2, but there's something about a hero shooter that I find very compelling, and I think part of it is the multiple different play styles that I can say, you know what, I am tired of being really particular about my aim and playing McCree all day, and now I'm gonna play Mercy and just sort of hold a button, and it's more about my positioning than my aim. And or I can play Winston, where I have to be very aware of where the team is in relation to one another when I dive in, and like it's these different kind of challenges that you can sort of give yourself.
Yeah.
Whereas with COD, it's like, I guess I'll try this gun, or like Counter-Strike or something.
Yeah.
That is a good. Yeah, I don't think I've ever gotten playing Overwatch.
It's like pure rote mechanical skill,
Yeah.
which you're improving,
And I
which
can-
is still very satisfying to get better at. But
I can last really long playing Overwatch. Like I can play Overwatch for a pretty good number of hours sometimes. Whereas like even like my beloved like classic hardcore pure mechanical shooters like Quake 3 and shit, like you play those for like a half hour at a time, and then you're just like straight up fatigued at the end of it.
I don't know if that's just like that. Like I'm older, maybe, and I get more. I'm more just like when I get killed over and over, I'm just like, I'm good. Rather than when I was younger, I'd be like, no, I'm gonna get better and I'm gonna beat them.
I'll show them.
Or maybe it's just because like I have those experiences of playing those games for hours and hours and hours, and now I'm like, I want something new. Like I've had that before. I don't know.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020, man. Because I think back to playing Unreal Tournament, and which I was way into, and the people I would play with, like we had our favorite guns. Like I always played with the flat cannon, and like my friend always played with the pulse rifle, and so like when I would encounter them, I'd be like, oh shit, he's gonna get me from a distance because I suck with the flat cannon against him, so I'm gonna run away from him. But when I get up to what's his face, he likes the rocket launcher, so I know I can like jump over his whatevers and go get him, get in close or whatever. So it's like thinking back to that, I'm like, of course, fucking hero shooters. Like, why? Everybody has their favorite thing that they like.
Right.
Yeah, that's really
And
smart.
they give you even more to grow attached to than just a gun,
Yeah,
because you have a whole character that, granted, you don't have any real control over the skin as to what they look like.
yeah,
But it's like, oh, well, if it's an interesting character, like, yeah, that's who I like. And it's something that I was going to get at a little bit earlier, the idea that a class-based system lends itself more to an objective-based game than just pure deathmatch.
yeah, up 100%.
Assault mode from Unreal Tournament. It was one of the greatest game modes of all time. Get into the boat, overload the reactor or whatever.
I like CTF was my jam.
Oh yeah,
overall.
fuck yeah. Phase 2.
Yeah. Oh, dude, Facing Worlds.
Yeah, that was
That's-
awesome.
Oh, it's the best stage.
For me, though, it was Halo
good.
that like I kind of tired of deathmatch and then fell into Capture the Flag. It was
Yeah.
like, oh shit, this is fun, especially with all the vehicles and shit. It was a
Yeah.
good time.
Which is funny because Overwatch just can't nail CTF.
There's people that are way into it, but
Yeah.
I got real frustrated. I was like, this just
It kind of
it's kinda-
sucks.
Yeah, there's like clear comps that are just better for that. I mean, there's just dominant strategies like having a Bastion and a Torb and a Symmetra nest, and it's like, okay, now everyone just goes and attacks the team because
Yeah.
they're not going to get our flag. And I don't know.
Maybe
It's
like,
very steamrolly.
Maybe like limiting heroes or something. I don't know what that solution.
Well, that is something that they did. Is that, you know, they introduced the custom games, and they added all these custom rules for Capture the Flag specifically. So like, okay, if you want, when you have the flag, you can't use movement abilities. That's a thing you can make. So you can make your own version of what you want Capture the Flag to be. But I'm just like, well, I'd rather just play something else.
Yeah, totally. It's still a diminished return.
A little bit, but I'm glad there's people that like it. I'm glad they added it to the game.
Well, it's a solid engine. I feel like because they have Soldier 76, like they can just start with that and then just like expand outward, you know?
Right.
It's like CTF with only Soldier is like, okay, cool. It's balanced. Now what?
Yeah, now I Tracer. Okay, now everything's fucked.
Yeah.
Great. I've seen a lot of people online that want Overwatch to add a gun game where I've never actually played it myself. I don't know what games supported it, but the idea is that
It's like Counter-Strike mostly.
I think it was probably Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Where you kill someone with, I think it starts with the best guns and then goes to the worst guns, and every time you get a kill, your gun automatically swaps out to a slightly worse gun.
Yeah.
And it's the first person to go through every gun in the game. And so an Overwatch version would be you start with like whoever is the easiest to get kills with. I don't know.
End up with like
Mercy or
Mercy.
Lucio or someone where it's like you would probably move from like the left side of the hero select screen to the right, you know, start with the attack heroes and then end up with support. But every time you get a kill, you automatically swap to that hero. I'm like, that could be really fun.
I like that idea.
It's like mystery heroes on crack,
Hell yeah.
which I'm a fan of.
And I think that there's just enough heroes that I'm bad at in Overwatch that like mystery hero is already a nightmare for me. So like gun game, I would never win.
Mm-hmm.
What is that from?
I think we were saying it might be from Counter-Strike.
It's mostly Counter-Strike. I think Global Offensive has a mode like built in, and like it had been a mod.
It sounds like a
games.
modded thing that then became official. But I would love to play it. I just don't really play Counter-Strike.
Yeah, it's
I'm also not good at it.
it's Counter-Strike. So like, you know, even if you're having your best game ever, there will still be someone who wins a full 5 minutes before you would have.
Right.
Didn't you guys recently play a bunch of the new Quake?
We did.
We did. Partly because of this conversation that we were having.
Yeah.
We were talking about hero shooters, and I was like, shit, well, I want to play Quake.
I had been playing in the beta for a little while and being pretty bummed about it.
It's kind of weird.
It's a very flimsy compromise between a hero game and an old school arena game.
Yeah, it feels like they wanted to just make a new Quake and then slap some hero stuff on top.
Somebody pressured them into it or something?
Because so there are all these different heroes and they have their own different identities and hitboxes and stuff, but they're all basically the same sort of shape. Actually, I don't know if they have different hitboxes. They must.
They do. Yeah.
Because there's that giant robot guy and the giant lizard lady and stuff. So
and I read about how they were tweaking them because like I think like the small characters originally had like tiny fucking hitboxes, which probably was
Which
impossible.
Quake at those speeds is already, although it does seem slower than old Quake.
It's like pointedly slower than Quake 3. Yeah.
But basically every hero has 3 different stats that are different between them. They have a speed stat, a health stat, and a shield stat, like what they start with, or armor. But they're very minute differences. The health is probably the most significant because having 75 health versus 150 is a big difference.
Yeah.
But I think the only guy with 75 health has an ability to give himself more health. So that's like his whole thing.
Oh, Anarchy?
I don't remember their names. But every character has an active ability and a passive ability. That's like the big thing that makes that a hero shooter. And the passive abilities are interesting, some of them. Some of them just sort of feel like, oh, I should just be able to do this no matter who I am. Like
Yeah.
one character can air strafe, and one character can bunny hop. And it's like the only thing that character, he's like, that one can bunny hop. And then the active abilities are on different cooldowns, but they're all very, very long cooldowns.
Yeah.
Which you can speed up by getting collectible pickup things in the maps.
Yes.
But it's the whole thing is like, it feels like you're not really that unique for your hero. It's just sort of what passive do you want and what active ability do you want every 30 seconds or so.
And
so it's much less focused on what those heroes are.
And I feel like what Quake Champions really makes me think about is like Overwatch is like baseline fun. Like it's like fun at a basic level, and then each different character gives you a different fun thing to do. So it's like a bunch of different toy boxes you can put your hands into. Whereas like Quake Champions, it starts out pretty lame. And then like sometimes when you get the active abilities, it's pretty interesting. Like I really like Slash, like the skater punk character.
Yeah.
Like her power is like you like skate along and basically you like leave a trail behind
like
you
a Tron
once you
light
activate your
trail.
ult. And then once you like activate your ult, you start drawing that trail. And when you hit the ult button again, it like detonates the entire trail. So it's like a really big like scattered
in the
explosive
like
attack.
path like behind you. And if anyone touches the trail before it explodes, it does damage to them.
Yeah, but like I feel like in a game like Champions, like as much as I love Quake 3 and stuff, the shooting just isn't fun enough. And so I'm looking forward to my active ability getting active, but like the shooting feels like filler. There's a bunch of guns that I hate using, so
They also announced the quad spawning,
oh my god.
so that everyone rushes, and there's like an icon.
Yeah. And so that's the thing is like, yeah, you're waiting for the quad to pop up. And it feels like everything you do in that game is like kind of waiting for the fun thing to happen.
A little bit.
God.
And it's like Overwatch, like it's fun from the beginning. It's
Yeah.
fun to play in general.
Also, like rocket launchers don't seem to do as like any splash damage at all.
No, and like this is a little only. I guess this fits in. With
Great,
aesthetic
it's still in
concerns.
beta. It's early access, so nothing we're saying is necessarily final about this game.
Yeah, but it even has that like old bugaboo of shooters where like even like the firing sounds for the guns, like the rocket launchers,
They're not very weighty.
right.
Right. Yeah, they don't have a ton of punch.
Yeah.
I also have some issues with the UI, but again, it's early access, so.
The way you described the feedback loop was, it just reminded me so much of PlayStation All Stars,
Oh my god.
like Smash Brothers ripoff.
You and I have talked about it, but I've never played it.
It's
So it's baffling.
there's so many-
Oh yeah.
Because the entire feedback loop of it is you fight each other by hitting each other with special moves and whatnot, but it doesn't mean anything.
You're just building up your meter.
You're building your ultimate meter, and then you have to land your ultimate to get a point.
And,
And
if
then
you,
you
and that's
win
not
by
and that's not knocking them out like Smash Bros or like even
no, it's
diminishing
just-
their health
just
bar.
If you land it, you get a point.
You get a point. And it's
So
all
it's-
about getting the most points.
So the combat feels like filler because it doesn't really matter.
that's crazy.
Yeah.
I wish they just included a mode that was Smash Bros. Because it probably would have made the game better.
For real. And-
I appreciate they tried to do something different, but they should have realized in playtesting, hey, this isn't that fun.
yeah. And like I think that's something Overwatch does so successfully. Like the ults in general, they all do more than just like this is the fun thing or
Right.
this is the good version of what your character always does. Like for the most part, they seem to be interested in like kind of mixing things up and becoming like important strategic moments in like a round that you kind
yeah.
of think about.
Because in the really high level play, especially, you have battles that literally all they are is setting up for ultimates. It's all about the ult economy and managing your ults and figuring out what the enemies got ready. But even on the professional level, the very first fight is still very interesting to watch.
Yeah.
With zero ultimates, because there's all these crazy abilities. You have people doing all kinds of crazy stuff.
Each pick is important.
Each pick is important, what they're counterpicking their team. With Quake Champions, before anyone has any abilities, it's just Quake, and everyone has whatever little starter gun they have, and they're just flying around like picking up armor and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like we're waiting for the stuff to happen.
Yeah, and even like it's one of those things where if you use your ult wrong in Quake Champions, it's just like such a bummer. Like I was playing as
Yeah.
Sorlag, the lizard beast, after we were talking
It was
about
gonna be
her.
my example too.
where
She's cool. She's pretty cool. I like her design.
credit to Quake Champions for making Sorlag was in Quake 3, just like a lizard monster. But in Quake Champions, Sorlag is basically the same design, but is explicitly a female character. And it's just like a disgusting lizard monster. So it's like,
And
hey.
she's like, time to kill. Just,
And it's like, I mean, it's kind of cool of them to make that a woman,
yeah.
I guess, as far as that kind of thing goes.
I'm okay with that.
But yeah, like if you like mess up and just like there's just like this green like
So
decal
her
now.
ability is she like throws up all this goop that just creates these acid pools.
Yeah.
And her passive is she's immune to acid pools, which is convenient, I guess. I guess if there's another Sorlag, you're like, haha, you're useless against
Sorlag
me.
only for sure.
Yeah, slappers only.
Sorlag. That was something that I was thinking about when we first started doing team deathmatch. Was like, because the playing field is so small, and the kills mean so much more than in regular Overwatch, like payload Overwatch. I was thinking, like, man, it could be, I don't know if it's the truth or not, but it could be like a meta where like every team needs a widow. Mm-hmm. It's like if you don't have a widow on the other team, then you guys are kind of fucked. Unless you counterpick Winston, I guess. But like just the very nature of being so close quarters. It's like, oh, we need a widow to counter the other widow. So the widows are fighting it out over here, almost like Quidditch. There's like a different game going on.
That's really funny.
Because if there's a widow, then you pick a widow, and then it's like, well, the widows aren't just gonna ignore each other. They're gonna try to fucking get each other.
Yeah, so they're up there playing Silent Scope or doing the fucking like MGS1 sniper duel. Or
Yeah,
something.
exactly.
Well, that's also what's interesting about Overwatch is besides the heroes themselves, that game kind of moves slowly, especially compared to something like Quake or Tribes or some shit, where you have these massive maps that people are just ping-ponging through. I know you love Tribes. Aaron
Every
loves
time
his
somebody
Tribes.
mentions Tribes, I just get a little
Just a little
happy
warm
place in my life.
But so characters move slow and they have a lot of health and there's a lot of healers. So you have to do a fuck ton of damage to kill anyone most of the time. Unless you're like lucky to pick someone off.
Tribes is really slow, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah, it is.
I haven't played much Tribes.
It's weird because it's like it's all about gaining speed because it's about skiing, or at least the later Tribes. But like
You go really fast when you're skiing.
yeah, you go really fast, but the levels are fucking huge.
So you're still going fast. My point still stands. Trying to snipe a dude who's going 100 miles an hour.
No, but like with Quake, it's like it's close quarters and you move fast. So it's like there's a guy, boom, there's another guy, boom, there's another guy, boom. But Tribes is like, all right, I'm picking up speed. All right, I'm picking up speed. All right, now I'm going fast.
That's
all right.
true.
There's a guy over there, so if he's going this way, towards me, then I might be able to get a hit on him. So, but I'm going for the flag, so I think I'm just gonna ignore him. But I might juke this way, like that's Tribes.
Yeah.
True.
So you may be going fast, but it's a really slow-paced game.
Yeah. I do remember skiing after someone who has our flag, just being like, all right, I'm gonna get him.
Yeah.
Here we go. Okay. He went that way. Okay, hold on. It's building up speed. He jumped over there.
That's something I feel like Quake Champions, it's like, why they do the hero thing at all? Because all it does is just like, it reminds me of like, oh, I could be straight up flying around as like Pharah. I could be like jetting around like Diva does or something like that. And instead, like, especially when in Champions, the movement just isn't as fun as it was in Quake 3.
I think because they gave those movement abilities to different characters.
Yeah, exactly.
They split it up.
Yeah, they're like burying the fun line, so you have to deal with some unfun shit to deal, like to have certain powers. He's just like, this is the character who's really slow and boring to run around as.
Well, and also it has, like Quake, a muddier color palette, and the characters don't really pop as much.
Yeah.
And so, at least for me, and granted, I didn't play very much, and it's early access, full disclosure. But it's like there's one character that can charge, and kind of like a Reinhardt charge. And if he hits someone, then he does a fuck ton of damage, and they just explode. And I'll just forget that that's a guy in the game, and just be running around and just get hit by him. Like I just thought he was a normal dude. I don't even know. It's not like when you see a Reinhardt and you're just like, that's a Reinhardt, and I know what he can do, and there's all this area and things are moving slow. Like, it doesn't make sense for me to have an ability like that in a game like Quake.
Yeah, because the game isn't built around it.
Yeah.
That's how it feels, at least. It doesn't feel like they're creating abilities that play to Quake's strengths. Like, there's a guy that just has a wall hack ability. That doesn't seem fair for Quake. That doesn't make sense to me. Granted, it's on a long cooldown, but it's active for like 10-15 seconds, and you just see everyone.
Yeah.
In Quake Champions, is there like I'm assuming there's a team deathmatch.
Yeah.
I guess like a CTF mode.
I think there is.
What's it fucking called?
I only played deathmatch and team deathmatch.
Well, it's just interesting to me because when you were talking about like there's like these muddy characters that are slow and boring to move around as, and it's like I'm thinking of Overwatch, and it's like a Reinhardt is super slow, right? I mean, they all have the same movement speed, but like when you're shielding, you go slower.
He doesn't have any real movement abilities besides his charge.
So he does sort of feel like a slog to play as, but they did a good job making him feel like empowered and like, come at me, bro. So like, even though you're moving slow, you're like, I don't need to move fast. Fuck it. I'm a fucking tank, you know?
Whenever anyone gets near you, smack him with your hammer, and that feels good.
And then knocks him back. And
There's
There's like a radius around you that's your fuck you zone you don't cross into.
Yeah, this makes me think I in Champions I like going fast so much, like in Quake, that I'm all about how fucking fast Quake 3 is, that I never actually played as the slow guy. So
I never played the shield dude, because there's a guy who has like kind of like a Reinhardt shield they can sort of toggle on and off.
yeah.
The thing that's interesting about that is that when you activate your shield, if you shoot, it deactivates your shield while the like bullet fires out and then goes back up. So even when his shield is active, you can still kind of counterplay him.
Okay, that's
Which I thought was
cool.
interesting because I feel like otherwise it's just like a go fight someone else button.
Yeah. I feel like that's kind of how like enemies in other games work when they have a shield. Like that's how like the guys in Time Crisis are when you
drop
shoot
their
at
shield
them.
to shoot.
Yeah, totally. Huh.
So it's interesting
kinda
to like give that as part of his ability, but yeah, I never play as him.
Not to bring it back to Tribes because I love Tribes or anything.
Please.
I had a realization as we were changing the subject. I was like, oh, Tribes is like sort of a proto hero shooter a little bit.
Is it?
Because it's a class-based shooter.
Yeah.
There's different classes. There's even more in Tribes Ascend, but like in the original Tribes, it was 3 classes. It was like light, medium, and heavy, and then each one of those had these own classes in them, which was different loadouts. So in heavy, there was like Juggernaut, who had like a mortar gun and something else, and then there was like Strength dude, and he had like a rocket launcher or whatever. And that's how Ascend is as well. Even though there are a little bit more options, but there's like an assassin class who has like a cloaking ability because he gets like a cloak pack. And it's all modular in the sense that like the thing that makes him cloak is like a backpack, and every character gets a backpack.
So everyone has one ability that they can use.
Yeah, because you have a backpack. But the strength of Tribes is CTF, and the classes do dictate, like the light classes are usually good flag runners because they go the fastest. And like you can flag run as another class, but it's going to be tougher. But it's interesting because it really is all about flag running. And if you're like a heavy class, then you don't really want to like, you can't really like follow the flag runner, or like you want to stay around the base. But it's tough because it's weird. I never really thought about it in terms of like a hero shooter and like the roles that you play.
Well, as you were talking, it kind of gave me this idea that like, oh, there is a very clear difference to me between a class shooter and a hero shooter. I think what you're talking about as Tribes is a class shooter, kind of the same way that TF2 is, which is that in any game, you're expected to have multiple people of any given class at a time. Whereas hero shooters, I'm just going to condense that into not pseudonym. I forgot what it's called. Portmanteau. Thank you, Jory. In a hero shooter, I just can't even get this out. In a hero shooter, you are expected to have like one dude of each hero. More so. Even though in Overwatch there are some modes, and earlier in the game it was
but
like,
there's
oh,
classes in Overwatch.
There are classes, but they're more kind of suggestions.
Yeah, it's kind
Are
of
they
like
though? The meta is very clearly like
The meta
2
is created
healers,
by the players,
right?
yeah, that's true.
And I think the labels of like these are the tanks, these are because like Mei is an off tank and she's in the defense category. Widow's in the defense category and she's probably better on attack most of the time. Things like that. They're more just sort of to help beginner players learn like, oh, these are good for these types of scenarios.
Interesting.
It's more fluid than it seems. Support is very clearly support, but then you have Symmetra, who's in the support category, and she's more defense.
Yeah, to that extent, I always forget that TF2 has the exact same thing, that like there's 9 classes and they're split into 3 categories.
Yep.
And
But let's say it's totally normal to have 5 soldiers on your team.
yeah, in TF2 it was much more ignorable, and partially that's because it was unlimited player count.
And it was just a little bit more like, I'm just going to fuck around. Was kind of the vibe I got in TF2. And people didn't play the objective in TF2.
Yeah, I guess people mostly just murdered each other, and then the top scorer would be everyone.
And then one person would push the payload.
Yeah.
But that's that's interesting to me too, because with the way Overwatch is balanced, it's really difficult to mix up a comp far beyond the meta in one way or another. Like if
Think about the... Sorry to interrupt. No, go on.
Well, I was just thinking in like Tribes, you could feasibly win really hard with like a bunch of light flag runners on your team just because they're like running a train.
And even TF2, like sometimes the scout rush was like a motherfucker to deal with. Like it worked really well sometimes.
Because if you do 6 DPS in Overwatch, like you're gonna have a bad time.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I think the idea is having hard counters. in a class system, you have soft counters, perhaps, and it's very situational. But in a hero shooter, you're more likely to have those really hard counters. So if you run 6 DPS, you just run a comp with a bunch of sustain, and they can't kill you. You have a bunch of tanks, a bunch of healers, and then someone to try to pick them off. And they have no healer, so you can just sort of, win that war of attrition. Like, think about the times that we've won running 5 supports,
Well, that's because we're epic.
Yeah, I know we're epic. But it's like there is a meta within Overwatch because it's I think it's interesting to have these sort of matchups where you're sort of expecting the team to do a certain thing. Like, okay, we're in dive comp, so they're probably going to run these tanks and these DPS, whatever. And you can sort of think about how to counterplay that. And then the meta evolves over time. And part of that is because of the balance changes that Blizzard does, but a lot of it's just because people discover new things, discover new strategies. And, think about when the game came out and it was always Reinhardt versus Reinhardt and it was all barriers all the time. And if dive comp was a thing back then, you would just jump over it, go on the point. So the game evolves on its own, just because of the community. And it's I think very dynamic because of all of these heroes with all these weird abilities that enables people to do these weird things.
I think
So
I hadn't thought about this until just now, but I kind of forgot that initially when I started playing Overwatch, I felt really like boxed in by a team count of 6. Are you kidding me?
That's nobody.
I was still used to TF2 where it was like 32 player teams.
Was it 12 on 12?
Like vanilla, but it got unlocked.
That's what
so
I know.
It was like 64 player servers. So like the teams were just ridiculous.
Wow.
And I completely forgot about that. That's a huge part of what makes the individual roles in Overwatch so important.
Yeah, I remember reading something about how particular they were about the number.
Yeah.
Like 8 or 7 players felt like nobody really could take any credit for any things that happened.
One more person.
And then 5 felt like nothing was going on.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's very, very strange how that works out.
Yeah.
I mean, I do remember having that feeling first playing Overwatch, having mostly played more like arena shooters or just Call of Duty, Halo, just deathmatch stuff, of this like, oh, this is an objective game and there's only 6 players. I have to get my shit together. Like, I feel like I'm gonna let down my team, and they're gonna know it was me because there's no one else to point to.
Hell yeah. No, it's in Overwatch. I've never done the things I always did in TF2 where like I would get a petty childlike personal vendetta against another player and I would track them
Overwatch
down.
kind of enabled that though, because then they have the whole I mean, they had the kill cam system, but then they would have like stats as well. That would be like, oh, this guy's like on a kill streak and he's killed you 5 times in a row. Didn't they do that?
Wait,
Or am I making that up?
what game are you talking about?
TF2.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Overwatch.
I might have said Overwatch.
Oh, yeah. TF2, like definitely, like you would get like the
The quick zoom in on the guy who fucked you up. But then wouldn't it tell you like this guy is fucking you up? They would tell you that.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
fuck that guy. I'm
Oh
gonna
my
get
god!
him.
And I was like the pettiest TF2 player. I'm a horrible team player. No one wants to play Overwatch with me anymore. I'm connecting a lot of dots during this podcast.
Makes sense. And Overwatch, like, you get the kill cam, but it's from their perspective. So it's, to me, it's more like, okay, how did I fuck up? Unless it was scatter arrows. Then
Overwatch doesn't have like a Agent 3 is dominating.
right.
Yeah, that shit.
Like, you ended their
Holy
kill
shit.
streak, and that's a thing that you're rewarded for.
Yeah.
Just you as a player, like, oh no, my kill streak
Yeah.
when you die.
Yeah, because that really is like who cares? It doesn't really matter if you're not like pushing the payload or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
It's an objective game, unless you're playing deathmatch, which is surprisingly good.
Because there could hypothetically be a situation where it's like, Kevin is dominating, and then immediately they lose because the fucking payload was just like being pushed without him knowing.
That's the pro Genji on the other side of the map.
Yeah. I guess that kind of stuff would promote people going off and doing their own thing.
So that was meant to be a tangent, but that's why I was like, well, yeah, like TF2 kind of enabled that, like, fuck that player,
Yeah.
because he keeps killing me. I keep seeing his dumb hat.
In general, and I probably a bunch has already been said and written about this, and I just haven't seen as much of it. But I think that's something Overwatch has always done really successfully too. Is just like, it's the first shooter I've ever played where there isn't like a scoreboard showing you how much your teammates are letting you down.
They don't even track the kill death ratio,
Yeah.
which a lot of players wish it had, but they're like, that's not the point.
Am I wrong? Like, it seems like it's like the only shooter I can think of where you're not constantly feeling that way. I think Lawbreakers doesn't have it either. Am I wrong?
We're gonna talk about Lawbreakers.
Lawbreakers.
Are we crossing the Lawbreakers line?
This is the first time we mentioned Lawbreakers.
I wanted to bring it up earlier and I forgot.
Yeah.
Lawbreakers.
I don't know if Lawbreakers does that.
I don't think it does.
I didn't play it like hardcore enough to get super into it.
You did play a lot of Lawbreakers when it first
I
came out.
did. I played it during the beta, and then I played it when it came out.
What's your hot take on Lawbreakers, Aaron?
Bad timing.
Kind of like Battleborn.
Well, bad timing because of its aesthetic.
Yeah, Lawbreakers is kind of pulled between worlds in that respect.
Yeah.
Where
If it had a better aesthetic, not better. If it had a
more timely one.
A more timely aesthetic, yes, that's a perfect way to put it. Because Lawbreakers would have been hugely popular 10 years ago. Because that's when people were into fucking gritty sci-fi weirdness.
A little more
but
realistic.
now that's a little played out right now, and people want to see very clean. I don't want to say cartoony, but like at least like
vibrant.
Identifiable characteristics for characters, and like with Lawbreakers, you don't really get a sense of any of those characters.
Yeah.
So they should have waited 5 years for when that aesthetic will come back.
Yeah, when it's nostalgic,
Right.
and the cycle comes back to like everybody wants like the blood and the.
Yeah.
Kind of a little bit how I felt about Drawn to Death, which was David Jaffe's new company. Just had this like hand-drawn aesthetic that was cool as a screenshot, and then in motion was just whoa.
Yeah.
And then it had this like aesthetic on top of that where like the announcer was always insulting you, making fun of you, making dick and fart jokes. And I was like, this would have been great on the PS1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
didn't that tank Daikatana like 20 years ago?
Right. Did we learn nothing?
as far as I can tell, like something like Battleborn, like it just wasn't very good. I mean, like it was okay, but like it wasn't. But Lawbreakers feels really good.
It's actually, I had a lot of fun at times.
Like when you really sink your teeth into it, it's like fun to shoot things and like fly around, and like the low grav areas are pretty fun.
Yeah.
I only watched you play it, but it did seem to have like some kind of clashing ideals within it, where it had this more realistic, kind of edgy aesthetic, a little bit more retro. But then like the ball was voiced by Justin Roiland, and it's spouting off all this crazy, hilarious shit. And it's like, to me, really distracting. I was like, I don't want to pay attention to the action. I just want to hear all the Justin Roiland lines.
Where's the game with that guy?
Yeah. But then like also the game, kind of like Quake, it like didn't have very strong silhouettes from what I saw.
Yeah,
it's like a
except for
big
the Zenyatta guy.
The one healer,
Yeah.
which no one wants to play because no one wants to play a healer anyway.
Well, yeah, because it feels
it's-
a lot more like bash and smash as opposed to like play the objective.
Right.
So who the fuck wants to play a healer in that kind of game?
Yeah,
And
that's,
also-
that's a really interesting problem.
Do you know if there's limits, or can you just like if someone already picked the Zenyatta guy, then I can pick the Zenyatta guy, or is it like one of each hero per team?
No, you can pick whoever.
So
Yeah.
it's whoever you want. It's
Yeah.
like
And like the only limit is that it's small teams.
Right.
Like, so
Yeah, it's 5v5.
yeah, so you can't even have one of every class.
But the maps are smaller
yeah.
than in Overwatch.
And then the other team is always just like a different aesthetic of the same heroes
And even kind of like the silhouettes.
No,
are-
they're different heroes.
with different abilities.
No, they have the same abilities. They play the same, but they look different.
That's what I was trying to get
okay.
at.
they're different
Yeah, I
characters.
didn't say it right.
But like
but the healer guy, for example, still has the orbs. I think,
Right, because
on
there's
both
the
sides.
law side and there's the law breaking
Yeah.
side.
even though they're doing the same thing.
Right. They're fighting. Maybe that's the moral of the story.
Damn.
Dang.
Flip sides of the
I
same
didn't think about
coin.
that till now.
Dude,
Yeah.
that's true duality.
Yeah, that's what the shattering in the logo represents. Man, that's society exploding right there.
Whoa, yeah.
But yeah, that seemed like a weird choice to me that they have like all these very unique characters that have the same abilities. There's like all these pairs throughout the game.
Yeah,
I guess that's
that is
more
strange.
interesting than Overwatch being like, both sides have a Reaper, but that one has a red outline. So props to that. I just it didn't really.
But there's no dissonance for me at all. Like I didn't think twice about it, and I don't think anybody does.
Really.
But like who complained about this? Like, well, if there's two Reapers, I
Yeah.
mean,
No. This is a problem that I'm inventing right now.
yeah,
No, you're not in. Like I've definitely seen those threads, but like where it's like, "Ew, why are Tracer and Winston fighting each other if they love each other so much.
Because it's a video game.
Yeah,
Like,
nobody actually gives
I
a
love the
fuck.
fact that Blizzard has on the record said that the game is not canon.
I really love that aspect.
It's like they had to go out of their way to be like, yeah, having 3 Reapers fighting 3 Winstons is not canon of the story.
Where I have always been really impressed with the mythology that they built around TF2 like 3 years after TF2 had been out.
Oh, yeah.
Where like they actually did a pretty
Saxton
nice
Hale
job.
and-
Yeah. They did a really good job of like retrofitting a story around just the most bullshit premise.
Yeah.
Like, and it's still like they did a good job of keeping it. And
Well, yeah, it was always very tongue-in-cheek and very silly. And
Yeah.
I remember reading all the comics whenever they'd come out just because they were well done and the
Yeah.
art was funny. And
because of Valve time, Valve could never do
Valve.
anything in the time we battle.
Valve.
It's been a really long time since they've actually put out one of those comics, but
Yeah. I mean, they made like a matchmaking system that I guess everyone hated.
Half-Life 3, right?
We
I
got
never
Half-Life
used
3.
it.
It was a text file.
What?
Half-Life 3.
What's that?
Did you miss the
No, yeah, I
are
missed
you
it.
doing a bit?
I'm not doing a bit. I don't know
I couldn't
anything
tell
about
if it was a bit either.
Mark Laidlaw, the lead writer of the Half-Life games, put out a gender-bent fan fiction that is the plot of Half-Life 3.
Like officially because
Or-
it was written by him.
Or
He
I-
wrote it, and the characters are gender bent and have different names, and he called it a fanfic, but for all intents and purposes, it is the plot of Half-Life 3.
He called it a fan fiction of an unrelated dream he'd had.
Right.
Where
he distanced himself from it very well, but everyone's like, yeah, no, this is Half-Life 3.
yeah.
Wow.
So it's good. It's interesting. I would have played it.
I don't know. I never played Half-Life. I didn't get through Half-Life 2, so
Those are great games.
sorry, I
And
just reconfigured your mic.
I saw someone.
I played through like the first third of Half-Life 2. I wasn't paying attention at all to the story. I was just like, this is fun.
The story's interesting, in as much as like I always found the lore of Halo really interesting, but that's not really why I play it.
It's the same with Overwatch.
Yeah.
I think the story of Overwatch is fucking garbage.
I like.
saying that.
it's their fun characters.
Whenever I
Yeah.
talk to people who love Overwatch, I'm like really afraid of broaching that
Oh
subject.
my god, it's
breaching.
terrible.
Yeah,
and
where
they're
it's just
making it up as they go along.
Yeah.
like nothing
yeah.
nothing was planned.
Of course, because they have like a new character coming on. They're like, okay, we need to make up plot that somehow ties them in.
And plus they like are really engaging with the fan theories and stuff. And
Yeah, but I as a counterpoint, I agree. Like the kind of current plot of what's happening in the world is kind of like meh. But I really like the world building and lore that they've done, and I think the animated shorts they do are incredible and like actually make me feel things for characters I don't give a shit about normally.
I think that in general, especially games do it really well where like environmental storytelling, sometimes it's just a skull sitting on a toilet. But like I think in general, like even a skull sitting on a toilet is way more interesting than like a badly
oh
written
yeah.
story.
It's so I mean nothing made me more excited in a video game that I can think of story-wise than like when they updated Numbani and the Doomfist was stolen, and I was like, whoa,
And the robots scattered all over the airport.
neato.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like if I had seen a video of that event or read about that event, I would not have given a fuck. But like going into the game and the map you used to be playing on has all this fucked up shit in
Yeah.
it. That's really cool.
The thing that first got me about Overwatch was just the voice lines that would just happen between characters when you first started up. Because I played that game for months and then was like, oh shit, they're talking about this Sombra character. And I've seen people online being like, oh, Sombra's gonna be the next hero. And then it was Ana. I never thought Ana was Sombra. But they would like reference things and you're like, oh, there's like actual like, story here.
Sombra was here,
Right.
or whatever.
And I remember it becoming a big thing when everyone realized, oh, on King's Row, we're the bad guys when we're pushing the payload because we're blowing up an EMP over a like Omnic haven.
Oh yeah, I never thought about that.
Yeah, no, you're actually like committing robo-genocide when you're pushing the payload.
Wow.
And when you push the payload and you succeed, there's this like big blast wave that comes out of the payload. And you're like, oh, oops.
Oh.
So if you're running a Zenyatta and a
Yep. It's not canon
Bastion,
though.
you just fall.
Yeah.
Is it
Thanks
that
for
would
the help,
be funny.
guys.
Victory, and you just all your balls go rolling around.
is it like the side missions from Ground Zeroes then, where it's like a non-canon recreation of an event that did occur in the Overwatch universe?
Don't
Is that what's
Kojima,
happening?
don't overthink it. But no, I really like that they took the time to give it all of this lore and history and context, because then it just makes these interactions between characters possible.
Yeah,
and you have these snarky remarks, and like Anna being Farah's mom is cool and interesting,
Yeah.
and you wouldn't have that if it's like, oh, we're a bunch of badasses and we're fighting.
It's a video game, you know. It's like, what is canon and what isn't canon? Is the fucking badass hero running in circles for an hour and falling off a cliff? Is that canon?
Reinhardt charging off a cliff by himself.
Probably not. So when they throw in little things like that, it's like, well, obviously you can't, it's like not telling a linear story or whatever, but it's still it's like fun. It's because it's a fucking video game. Like, who gives a shit?
Yeah, and I think that like the whole Overwatch aesthetic is fun,
Yeah.
except for Hanzo scatter arrows. Those aren't fun. Please nerf.
And they do a really, really admirable job of like listening to fan theories and making jokes like a part of the game, like all the shit with like Diva being a disgusting gamer.
Which is great.
Gremlin Diva.
Which I think is cute as hell.
It's really cute.
And I think some people are hard on it because it's the integrity. It's like, there's no fucking integrity.
Oh, yeah,
it's
no.
a video game.
And
if
I
they
think-
embrace the fan fiction like porn shit, then that would be too far.
I don't know. I think the fans would love it.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
fans would, but that to me is like the essence of fan service. It's like, oh, my ship. What did you do to Tracer?
But I think the important thing is that it doesn't really matter. Like, they wouldn't let that shit affect the game.
no.
You know, it's just the little drawings around it.
Well, they have
like,
different people working on the game and the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because you never saw like, oh, I feel like this character should be like this, and everyone's like, yeah, fan theory, and then they like change that character to be like that, completely changing the meta.
Yeah,
or
the
something.
gameplay.
Like, they wouldn't do that. It's,
Well,
it's the
I don't know.
same thing of like, you can't buy a better gun. You can only buy a cooler outfit. You know.
Yeah.
It doesn't really affect the game at all.
That was actually, thank you for the segue. That was a point that I wanted to make earlier about other modern shooters that are very XP progression based, where you level up your gear, you level up your weapons, you get
Star
better
Wars
stuff.
Battlefront.
Yeah, like it's a game of someday I'll
Tribes
be that
is like
guy.
that.
Really?
Yeah, you gotta play a lot or pay. Well, it was a free to play game, so that's why.
Yeah.
But you gotta play a lot or pay to get like better guns for the classes.
But that's something that I really like about Overwatch, that it's not pay to win. That they said like that they could have made it a MOBA type free to play. You only get certain heroes, but they wanted everyone to have every hero in every game. I mean, I think there are some hero shooters that lift more from MOBAs in terms of player progression, but even MOBAs, like every game you're starting from scratch and you're building up your character to be this badass. Like that's the arc of every game. It's not the arc over months of playing this one game.
Here's a
I like that.
Yeah.
It's a good thing. I like that trend.
I think so too.
you mentioned something that I was pondering a little bit about Lawbreakers in particular, is the like free to play versus pay. Lawbreakers was announced to be a free to play game.
Right.
But they changed it to a pay game, but it's $30. And I heard somewhere, and I sort of had this thought independently, but didn't really think much of it until somebody else was like, this is important. I was like, oh fuck, it is important. Is if that game were $60, do you think it would have done better?
Huh.
Because the implication of it being a $30 game is like, it's a lesser game. Because it's technically an independent game,
Right.
but it doesn't come off as an independent game. It comes off as a fucking AAA title.
Right. Because
Right.
it's pros making that game.
Exactly.
So is that like the ghost of like the concept of budget games,
Yeah.
which kind of doesn't even exist anymore?
Yeah, exactly. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Like when I saw the price of it, I was like, oh really? What's it missing? You know?
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's a really good point.
Or like you expect to pay a ton in cosmetics and loot boxes and
Yeah.
stuff.
Whereas I think Overwatch, maybe it was the Blizzard pedigree that like even though on PC it was 40 bones, which feels cheap, it still was like, oh, they're selling that game for pretty cheap. Instead of being
Right.
like, yeah, Lawbreakers, where it's like, oh, it's $30, which means like you'll spend some time with it, but you'll probably lose interest
Yeah.
pretty fast.
Well, if you buy it for console, it's $60, right? Overwatch?
Yeah.
And the
Oh.
Origins edition is $60.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing. The Origins edition came to consoles, which now is like the Game of the Year edition or whatever.
Yeah.
And on PC, you could buy the Origins edition which it was the exact same game. You just got extra skins and bonuses in other Blizzard games.
Yeah.
Or you could buy the $40 version, which was only on PC, which was just the game. You didn't get all the bonuses and stuff. So that's what I did. I bought the $40 version and then was like,
yeah.
I'm going to buy $20 in loot boxes. Aren't I a smart consumer? No.
You did it.
No, but I ended up getting a $60 game and getting a bunch of loot boxes. So that's how I justified it to myself.
Yeah.
And then I bought more loot boxes. I'm part of the
I
problem.
bought so many loot boxes.
I've bought
dude.
more than I would like to say
So many
publicly.
loot- Are we part of the problem because we're playing it? They update the game.
I mean, that's the thing.
having
Are we
fun
part of
with
the
the
problem,
game.
or are we funding all of this awesome skin and event content?
Because for all the
that-
people who only spent $40, they're getting fucking.
they're getting crazy good
they're
value.
getting miles and miles and miles of fucking shit.
I have spent maximum, I think, like $5 on loot boxes.
Yeah.
So like,
I wish I
thank
was you, Jory.
guys.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is thank you both.
oh
for
yeah, you're
keeping that
welcome,
game
man.
Going, so
well, I mean, that's what always.
I just want all the things.
That's what worries me about like Yacht Club, where they're fucking tied into making these 3 free expansions, which are basically entire games.
They are entire games.
and there's no extra income. There's
well, they
no,
just changed it finally.
Yeah,
So if up until like earlier this year, if you own Shovel Knight, you just get every expansion.
yeah.
And now they're selling them as separate entities. So if you buy Shovel Knight Treasure Trove, it's a higher price, but you get all the stuff,
Thank
or you can buy
goodness.
them. And it's like, you guys should have done that when Plague Knight came out, because goddamn, these are so good. And
Yeah.
I've already bought Shovel Knight on like 3 different. I have it on PC. I have it on my 3DS, which I fucking love it on the 3DS.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I have it on every fucking console.
it's like I will happily pay for that game over and over. But yeah, they've just been. They went above and beyond. Like when you see on a Kickstarter, oh, we'll do a campaign of the enemies. You think like, okay, a couple levels.
No, yeah, they made
Goddamn.
entire games.
And then like whole sets of new mechanics that you can pick up.
I mean, it's an
Yep.
entirely different game.
That's so
they
wild.
reused stage assets. Like that's it.
Well, whenever they would reuse an actual like area of a level, it was to prove a point of how different those characters were.
Yeah.
Like, there would be areas where as Shovel Knight, it was super easy. You just walk through. But as Plague Knight, you're like, holy shit, this is so hard and weird. And then the vice versa of like, this was a really hard part of Shovel Knight, but you just walk through as Plague Knight. Just because their abilities are so different. And I talked to one of the guys at Yacht Club and he's like, yeah, that was deliberate. Like, thank you for picking up on that.
That's really
So
cool.
what is it wasn't them being lazy. It was like, no, like, remember this, which I think was a very smart way to do that.
That's really smart.
But
And usually when there's like a stretch goal like that in a game, it seriously is like, there'll be like a new statue in this area if
Right.
we make this much money.
yeah.
Did you notice that statue?
Do you like that? You paid for that statue. So when's the Shovel Knight Hero Shooter coming out?
Oh my god.
I would play it. They got a lot of cool characters.
I would play any fucking Shovel Knight game. You know that this is a complete tangent.
Is that what this is turning into?
Shovel Knight meets Tribes. Is that where you're going?
No, oh my god. No, that's why I started playing Farah cuz
Tribes.
well, yeah, cuz I heard she was the jetpack rocket girl and I was like that sounds like Tribes cuz you get jetpacks and you get the spin fuser. And I played it and I was like, "Oh, the sound of the jetpack going off was like super nostalgic for me." Playing as Farah.
Wow.
So that's what drew me to Farah.
And I
now she's
played
my main.
I played just enough Tribes to really like get into like how fun like the skiing mechanics and stuff are.
Oh yeah.
And over the weekend, I finally bought No Man's Sky because everyone's been talking about like the updates, kind of making it more fun and
Yeah,
everything.
apparently it's finally a game.
And that's something that keeps taking the air out of it for me is like it looks enough like Tribes, and I know there's a jetpack on my character's back, and I'm like, oh boy, I'm gonna start skiing now. And I hold the space bar, and it's like as I just like kind of go up a little bit and then fall back down out of fuel. And it's like,
It's basically like a super jump. It's not much of a jetpack.
yeah. And again, it just feels sort of like I have a feeling I could upgrade my jetpack enough that this would be really fun. But that's like 12 hours from now.
It's a lot of grinding.
Did you know that was a glitch? The skiing?
Yeah, it's like because of the way it handles like acceleration when you hit the ground,
Yeah.
right? It's the same as like bunny hopping in Quake 3.
Yeah.
Which did you ever play Quake Live?
No.
Quake, I find it really interesting because like Quake 3, I was obsessed with that game. And I never bunny hopped and I never did that kind of thing.
Uh-huh.
And then Quake Live, it's like the third thing in the tutorial is like you have to successfully do like a crazy bunny hop move that I never knew existed in Quake 3, where like you like have to like edge jump so that you end up going like 4 times faster than the base speed, like by the end of it. And it was originally a glitch, but then in Quake Live they codified it just the way they did in like the later Tribes games, where like all of a sudden skiing is basically the game.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's what makes it unique.
Yeah.
Playing Tribes is like playing as Farah with like 10 baseball bats.
And skis.
Because you have to get a direct hit with an other. It's like trying to get a direct hit playing as Farah with another Farah, but both Farahs are traveling at the speed of light.
Both have a Lucio strapped to their back.
That's what playing Tribes is.
Yeah.
And you get good at it, and then you start getting blue plate specials, that's what they call them, when you get a midair hit.
That's a blue plate special.
Because they're like little blue discs.
Oh.
A spin fuser. So whenever you
Like
get
a Krillin's whatever attack.
yeah, and then you just start getting them left and right, and you're just like, man, I'm fucking good at this.
Nice.
And then you go back to play Overwatch, and you're just like, God, this is so fucking easy.
Everyone's just on the ground moving very slowly.
They do a pretty nice job of like, because I think about it where like Farah doesn't feel anywhere near as powerful as like the Soldier's rocket launcher did, and she's not anywhere near as like ridiculously fast as you were in Tribes. But in general, I think that they do a really good job of like, Farah still feels really powerful. She feels really unique.
Well, considering how much they keep
set.
stacking the counters to her.
Oh my God, half the cast counters Farah.
Yeah,
Fuck.
they I think Farah is really, really strong.
And
It's
Granted,
only
with Pharmacy, she's very
it's only because of Mercy.
yeah.
They won't buff her because of Mercy. If Mercy didn't exist, they would have buffed the shit out of her.
Oh my God, she would need 5 new abilities to handle
Because
it.
even like a Pocket Zen or an Ana isn't good enough.
with the Mercy changes on PTR, is now the time? Like, is Farah next?
No, Mercy can still do the same shit.
They didn't
Fuck.
change Guardian Angel or her actual like beam at all.
I guess though, if Mercy players start playing differently, do you think maybe Mercy's gonna be?
They won't. It's too good. It's this weird like.
If they buffed Farah, then Pharmacy would be 10 times worse.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
It's this weird like exponential where it's like Farah by herself sucks. Farah with a Mercy is a little too good. So it's like,
God,
it's like
they
how do you balance that out without like fucking both of them up
I don't know
for
how to
everybody
react.
else? Because in any other circumstance, like Mercy's totally fine.
I do completely rescind my compliment to Blizzard and to Overwatch then.
But then if they tip the
really
scales
fucked up.
too much and then no one plays Farah, which already there's not a lot of pros that play Farah as far as I can tell. If they tip those scales even further, then Mercy is required to play Farah. And that's not a place that you want to be.
Okay, that makes sense.
I mean, for the most part, that's actually kind of how it is. Like you can pull off a pretty good Farah with a Zen, or an Ana, but the Ana would have to pocket you.
Yeah. That's how I play when I'm on and you're Farah. Is like I look away for 3 seconds and you're at like 1 pip and I'm like, shit.
Yeah.
I'm throwing a grenade halfway across the map. Like, please, please, please. But yeah, I mean, closing thoughts. Overall, I feel like I'm a fan of the hero shooter trend. It's just a weird situation where Overwatch is almost like WoW before it, just like the dominant force in its genre, and every competitor just sort of, maybe it's because they're just having trouble finding their own niche. And if they did a better job of that, then there'd be like a real passionate core. Maybe that's why Quake Champions is leaning really hard on the arena shooter side of it.
Well, because it's more accessible. I think what Overwatch has working against it is because it has such a huge player base and it is number one. So
That works against Overwatch?
no, I think it works. I think it works in its favor and everyone against everyone's favor, because you can pick up Unreal Tournament, you can pick up Quake Champions or whatever and just play and have a good time. But Overwatch, you need to know a lot about the game. You need to know the maps. You need to know the heroes. You need to know the counters. You need to know all that shit, or else you're gonna be a shit player. Like you can't just be like kind of good. Like you have to know this shit.
That's true.
I'm kind of interested in this because I sort of feel like Overwatch, I'm not that great at it in general. And especially like when I first bought the game, I had no fucking clue what was going on, but I was really having fun with it. Whereas like with a game like Quake Champions, I feel like the learning curve is situated in a place where like the instant I start it, I know exactly what's happening and I already understand basically all of the boundaries of play. But I'm terrible and I'm having an awful time. Whereas like Overwatch, I'm still not that great at, but every time I play it, I have a lot of fun.
Well, it just feels better.
Yeah, and I think that's something Overwatch and hero shooters like it do really
I
successfully.
mean, the game feels just so good.
Oh yeah.
Also at the lower end of like beginner players, I think you're not really thinking about who counters who and what ultimates are up and things like that. You're thinking, oh, I'm Lucio, I can boot people. I'm gonna go boot people.
Yeah.
And it only comes later once you get comfortable with that, where you learn, oh, I have this on my team that pairs with this. Like that just kind of naturally happens over time. And I think they do a pretty good job with their MMR system of keeping new players with other new players. There is the occasional Smurf, but within a few games, they're hopefully pushed up, so they're playing with better players.
Right.
Honestly, I think it's exponentially worse, at least for me, with MOBAs because of how many characters there are. There's like hundreds of characters in those games, and they all have unique abilities and match up with different characters. And then you have the whole pick and ban system in MOBAs, so it's like another thing to worry about, that you can't just have your one character you're good at, because if they're banned, then who are you gonna play?
I, full disclosure, have at different times, I have downloaded, and I use that word very deliberately. I will say I have installed Dota 2, League of Legends, and Heroes of the Storm, and have never actually started a match of a single one of them because the options when I start the game are so overwhelming that I have never actually played a single match of a MOBA.
I've played one match of League.
How did you feel about that?
I absolutely hated it. There was 0% fun. It was like
It was unfun.
it was like torture, and I was like, why would I keep doing this? I have no incentive to continue this.
I really tried to get into League in like 2011, like when it was kind of first hot on the scene around then. I don't know exactly when it came out. And I was playing with a bunch of guys who were way into it, and I was the noob. And I honestly kind of put a big chunk of the blame on them, that they weren't good teachers. They just said, stand near this tower and then mash Q when a guy comes near.
Well, yeah, because they're playing the meta already.
Right, they're playing the meta, and they're like, okay, pick this guy because he's free this week, and then like you're Tryndamere, spin the win. I'm like, okay, champ, and then when I'm getting stomped on, I feel bad. And they're like, no, you're doing fine. I'm like, but I'm dying and losing. Your guys' fights are going fine, and we're winning. Or like, if we're losing, it's like I don't know how to improve. And then I would die and then go to the store. And I'd be like, what do I buy? And they're doing their own shit. And they're like, buy the boots. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to buy it. I don't know what it does. I don't know what anything's happening. So even though I played like a couple dozen, maybe like a dozen matches of League, like I never really got it. And I understood enough that like I can watch League and kind of get it.
Same.
Well, there's too much information, and it's not simple enough. You know, I can tell you the moment that I was sold on Overwatch, and it was a huge moment for me. I was playing Hanamura, and we were on attack, point B, and I was Pharah, and I was going around on the left, and there were two people that were trying to get me from the other side of that big gap that you can jump over. Mm-hmm. And I didn't know what I was capable of. And I saw that I had an E, which was the concussion blast. And I was like, oh, I wonder what this does. And I shot it at them, and it landed behind them, and I booped both of them off at the same time. And then it was like, you killed those two, and like the little beeps came up and stuff, and the kill feed and everything. And I was like, I love this game because it was just so like, I get it. I get what I just did, like why it happened. Like something like LOL is like, you're right. Like you could be doing something totally right, and everyone's like, no, you're fine. And it's like, it doesn't feel fine.
Right.
It feels horrible.
Because it's literally a grind for a huge chunk of the game.
Yeah.
The whole point is like leveling up, and it's actually, so I also played a fair bit of Heroes of the Storm because Overwatch did these promotional things where they're like, if you play Heroes, then you get this shit.
They gotcha.
Which they got me, but I was playing with a couple friends that played Heroes, and they were good teachers. And there's a lot of mechanics in Heroes that I like a lot better as a filthy casual. There's a lot of things that I like about Heroes other than League. For example, the minions that are always spawning and are running in a straight line. In League of Legends, every individual character, you have your own gold and you have your own XP pool, and it's all about getting the last hit on those minions because that's what gives you the gold and the XP. In Heroes, it's a shared pool for your entire team. So there's no internal competition of like, what the fuck? Why'd you get that last hit? Like, I need the XP and the gold, like and all the toxicity and blah blah. It's like on Heroes, if you're doing anything, you're benefiting your team. And when you level up as a team. So it really, I don't know, it takes a lot of that stress off of a newer player of like, I don't know what to do. It's like, just do stuff. Just do stuff. You're fine. I don't know. There are things like that. There are like a lot of little bits that I noticed, and also it was much more objective based. Whereas League, like everyone plays Summoner's Rift. I don't think there's anyone that plays anything besides Summoner's Rift.
Yeah.
In Heroes, there's all these different maps that have different shapes. There's different objectives. There's some maps where you're collecting shit and then bringing them back to a central point. So there's like little team fights that break out there, but you're sort of like doing your own thing. There's others where you're trying to capture certain objectives by just standing on them, and that makes a giant golem show up that does a thing. Like every map is different, and that just keeps it fresh for me and makes it less about, I'm just gonna stand in this bush and wait for a guy, I'm gonna gank him, oh, he killed me, now I'm gonna respawn for half an hour. Like that's not fun for me as someone who doesn't get the higher level shit.
And you know what? I have heard a lot about how Heroes is more accessible, and so I will give it this credit. And this is true. Heroes, I have installed twice.
Hey,
I still have never played it, but I have installed it.
League and Dota don't have
deleted
that.
it. Yeah.
Wow.
I've only installed and deleted those motherfuckers once.
Final thoughts. Don't compete with Overwatch.
Yeah.
Don't try.
Christ.
But that's the thing is like I want I mean I play a fuck ton of Overwatch, so I don't have room for another Overwatch in
I
my
don't.
life.
Well, the thing is, I don't have any complaints.
Yeah.
It's like if I played Unreal Tournament, it's like, oh man, I wish I could. Like, I don't have any of that in Overwatch.
Yeah.
I'm totally satisfied.
Me too.
So if another hero shooter got announced, I'd be like, I don't want to learn another game.
I mean, I do wish that they did balance patches a little faster. It's kind of a bummer to see stuff go on the PTR and then it's like 3 weeks before it goes live because it's like, I want it now.
But you
Like,
actually,
good or bad, I want it now.
you actually made a really good point to me a couple of days ago or something. I don't know, but the point you made was basically that like, well, sometimes it's really frustrating when it takes them forever to respond to a balance issue, and then when the patch comes out, their change is like really radical. Like they make like really big changes. But the fact is, every one of those has gotten me to open Overwatch back up. Like
Right, well,
anytime.
That's the thing is like even when there's a crazy buff or a crazy nerf, that shakes things up. And a lot of people see that as a problem because they have their strategy. Like I was a fucking Roadhog main for season 3? Maybe season 4, I don't remember exactly. But then they nerfed him to shit and he became this weird Roadhog thing, and I stopped playing him. I fell in love with Winston, and I played a fuck ton of Winston for the season after that. Yeah. And is that a problem? I'm not convinced that's a problem because they're buffing Roadhog as we speak. They're going to keep shifting him. They don't want a single hero to go completely unplayed by everyone. Like there's all these myths of like, oh, they only look at the pro players and they're only like looking at them for a balance, or they're only looking at bronze players and they're looking at how they play. And I think it's a lot messier than that. You know, it's this really big, complicated thing.
You know what?
But
you saying that makes me. I bet you $1 million that because when they first started doing balance tweaks, they were just balance tweaks, and then they announced the Symmetra change.
That was the first big one.
I bet you $1 million that got so many more people playing Overwatch that they were like, and then they were just like, Bastion gets changed, Junkrat gets 2 mines. We're fucking up Mercy now. Like,
you're right.
Reaper gets health when he does damage.
Yeah.
Just like they keep getting crazier and crazier with it, and I'm all aboard that train because yes, sometimes I get hit and the characters that I play get fucked over. But then I just go somewhere else. And then by the time they buff the shit out of Roadhog, I'll be like, okay, I'm ready to go back to Roadhog. Because also, I'm the type of character, I'm not a character. I'm the type of player that I like bouncing around between different characters. I get very bored very easily just doing the same thing all the time. That's just what I do. I don't begrudge anyone for maining one hero. So when I get hit by a nerf or a buff or whatever, that's just an excuse for me to look at the game differently. And that keeps the game fresh. It's over a year and a half-ish.
Overwatch.
And like I don't see myself like I
It's the same music as the Monster Hunter music.
It kind of is. Like my biggest problem with Overwatch is that I play it too much, and that I have to give myself a like, I will not play after this hour, or I will not go to sleep.
Ugh, I'm so sick of that. Because mine's 2,
and
and yours is 12.
and I'm shifting it to 11.
Ugh.
Moving it earlier.
Because I get up at 7:45,
You're insane.
and so 2 is the latest I'll go.
You're getting
And
5 hours of sleep?
I won't always get to 2. Yeah, 5 is the cap. 5 is what you need at least. Unless you're doing Uberman.
8 at minimum.
You can live with.
I can live. I went through college. I can live with very little sleep. I don't want to. No, it kills me, bro. You're killing me, Smalls. When I hop on at like 9 p.m. and no one's online, play for a couple hours by myself. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to go to bed. And then everyone logs on at 11:30, and I'm like, you motherfuckers. And then
That's why you gotta shift it to 2.
And then I go to bed at 3 a.m. because I can't fall asleep because it wires me up. I'm saying
That actually is I've been paying attention to that a little bit.
yeah.
I think that is a serious problem.
That's why I've been going to bed.
Because I sleep shitty.
Yes.
Because I'll go to bed at the same time.
Join me in the midnight club.
But if I play Overwatch and then go to bed, I sleep shitty.
Yeah, because it wires you up. It gets you energized.
Yeah.
All right, you guys talk
That's
about,
why I've been giving myself bedtimes.
I'm gonna be over here playing PUBG with Brent Lilly until 2 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
I just can't.
My-
I'm
my-
sorry.
my-
I told you I was going to get, but man, Overwatch is just so much better.
That's my point. Is it's always still fresh. I can come back to it, and it's a crazy different game. Like
Yeah.
I took a break to play Zelda when that came out, and went back to Overwatch, and it was a different game.
Dude,
I missed
is
the
really
Bastion
cool.
meta because I was playing Zelda.
Yeah, I had kind of a scary moment when I was on tour. I didn't play Overwatch for like a month. And then when I came back into it, Doomfist was live, and there was some other change, and I just like played, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna do something else, and I was like, oh my god, am I falling out of Overwatch? and then I eventually got back into it again.
Oh, you'd have been a pariah.
Yeah.
But
Well, it's because that's how I hang out with my friends at night.
Wow, that's really pure. Yeah,
it's a social thing for us.
Overwatch was like that with my group for a minute too. And in fact, my group hasn't had like a game that we're like hardcore into in a while. And I
Choo Choo Rocket.
competitive
You
Choo-Choo
should
Rocket.
get into Choo Choo Rocket.
Did you see there's an indie that's basically Choo Choo Rocket
Really?
coming out right now?
Yeah, but oh man, so much of why I love Choo Choo Rocket is the aesthetic.
The aesthetics
though.
are just gorgeous. And yeah, the new indie, not to knock it, it looks cute, but just like Choo Choo Rocket, everything is so
Yeah.
fucking iconic.
That's like when somebody was telling me, because I love Jet Set Radio, and there's like an open Jet Set Radio that they made now.
Really?
Yeah, I forget what it's called, but it's like you're running, but you're traveling at like skating speeds, and you can like grind on shit, and it's all about like going through the city and going really fast and doing tricks and shit.
Okay.
And I just watched it, and I was like, no, doesn't look like Jet Set Radio. The aesthetic is so appealing to me. That's what draws me back to Jet Set Radio every time, because it's not a great game, but fuck if it isn't like so much fun to look at.
Oh,
and
hell
be
yeah.
in that world.
And the music too, like picturing the exact same visuals with music that
Yeah.
didn't totally fucking blaze. Like,
Okay, next week the
Oh,
Jet Set
I'm gonna-
Radio
I'm gonna
podcast.
steal that now. Totally fucking blaze. You have the coolest fucking colloquialisms.
that's very kind.
That totally fucking blazes, dude.
Yeah, the music from JSRF ripped, man.
It ripped Blaze. Thank you for listening to the G Club.
Yeah.
I have been and continue to be Barry Kramer, Matt Razadup on Twitter.
I have recently become Aaron Hansen at Egoraptor, and you can watch me on the channel that you're on right fucking now.
Well, maybe they're not on YouTube, Aaron.
Why would that? Oh, because yeah,
It's on other things.
youtube.com/GameGrumps.
Because this podcast, if you didn't know, because you never read the description, this is on SoundCloud, iTunes, and Google Play.
I don't read anything. I just
I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the listener.
consume
you're-
content.
I know I'm looking at you, Aaron,
You're-
but I was talking to the listener.
You're really chiding the listener too. Like,
Well, no one reads the description. It gets to me. Spend a lot
You're
of
gonna
time
learn the
on
hard
this.
way what I learned in like 3 years with Game Grumps. It's just don't even. You fucking people listening.
Hey, you
need to fucking you.
Yeah, you.
I am
With the headphones.
You're not listening right.
Going da-da-da in the background.
Stop enjoying yourself and do it my way.
Quit consuming the media the way you want to.
I had to learn that. Oh, it was bad. Now I'm like, I love you guys.
I'm only being sassy. I don't actually.
It's so funny.
I don't mean it, but I kind of do.
Yeah, there was that one time.
That's when you just say info's in the description.
That one time though, the G Club description was wrong.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
Someone's getting fired, and it's me.
this is some post show. I'm out of here.
Thanks, guys. Wait, Jory, who are you?
Hey, I'm Jory.
Where are you, Jory?
You can find me on Twitter at Jory Griffiths.
Awesome.
And play the game that I worked on. That
Dream Daddy.
made
Dream
possible.
Daddy.
Dream
For
Daddy.
the 3 people that are still listening, Dream Daddy.
Bye.